What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about 5 more players I'm avoiding in 2025 fantasy hockey. Before we get into these players, just a quick shout out to Underdog Fantasy. The Best Puck Classic is still available. You can draft fantasy hockey teams, $200,000 in prizes. All you got to do is draft teams and see how they do throughout the year. Make sure you sign up on Underdog using code FIREDUP on the app or desktop. And if you play $5, you get $100 in bonus funds. You're also going to get my top 150 Underdog rankings, which come out in 2 days, I believe. I'll be talking about that when I make my Underdog video, but there's more info in the pinned comments below. Make sure you sign up using code FIREDUP. The first player I have been avoiding in the last couple of weeks is Shea Theodore of the Vegas Golden Knights. The reason is very simple. Mitch Marner is currently in Shea Theodore's spot on the first power play unit. That was the fear going into the season. We saw the Leafs run a 5-forward power play last year with Marner running the point, and it looks like that's what they're going to be trying at least to start the year. Now listen, Theodore is currently on the right circle on this power play because Dorofeev is injured, but there's no reason why Theodore would be on there over Dorofeev, considering Dorofeev scored 35 goals last season, and like 13 of those goals came from the man advantage. Based on the comments from the coach and what we know, this is what they like and this is what they want to try. There's no guarantee that it stays the same for the entire season. Maybe the power play struggles and they throw Theodore on there. Maybe Mark Stone gets injured because he is very injury prone, and in that case Theodore could definitely get on that power play. But as of right now, where he's going ADP wise on many platforms, he's not worth the price. If this power play starts clicking and Theodore is not on power play 1 for the entire season, his ceiling is massively capped. So I would do yourself a favor and avoid Shea Theodore where he's going. Another player I've been avoiding is Timo Meier of the New Jersey Devils. Yes, I might be a little bit biased because I drafted a lot of Timo Meier last year and he burned me, but the fact remains that it is unlikely that he's going to be on power play 1. Listen, I understand. I want Meier to be power play 1. I want him to be on that right circle. I had Timo Meier that season he was on the Sharks when he was an absolute demon, and I reminisce about those days. Unfortunately, these are the facts. The first fact is that Jesper Bratt occupies the same spot that Timo Meier occupies on the man advantage. People criticize Bratt for not being a shooting threat from that spot, but the Devils had the 3rd best power play percentage in the NHL last season. So why fix something that isn't broken? If you wanted to move Bratt out of that spot to the bumper, that would push Nico Hischier to the net front. Nico Hischier had like 14 power play goals from the bumper. So again, why would you try to fix this power play and change it up significantly when it had so much success last season? Keefe has stated in interviews that they didn't like Meier on power play 1 last season, and that's why they took him off. They don't see him as a net front guy, and we saw Stefan Noesen go into that role and be very successful at it. Now I know what you're thinking. Stefan Noesen is injured. We saw Timo Meier on power play 1 in camp. Well, guys, newsflash, that was one day. Mercer rotated in with him, and then every other day after that, when they were doing power play drills, it was Mercer on power play 1, not Timo Meier. We also know that Noesen is skating and progressing. Not sure if he's going to be back for opening night, but he will be back soon. And when he's back, there's no reason why they wouldn't put him on power play 1. Now, if your league counts hits, then I'm fine with where Meier is going ADP wise across platforms. He's going to have an edge, elite shots, and elite hit production. But if your league does not, then I think he's a little bit too pricey. This is a player that might only put up around 55 to 60 points, maybe some room for more, but without power play 1 deployment, a power play that sees a lot of time on ice, I don't see the upside. Another player I've been avoiding is Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers. I've been doing a lot of best ball drafts, and in the last 2 weeks, I haven't really drafted a lot of Sam Reinhart. The obvious reason being the Alexander Barkov injury. Now listen, I still think Reinhart is an elite player, don't get me wrong, but the fact is that without Barkov, we're not going to see the same level of production. Barkov elevates everyone that he plays with. Yes, maybe they try Anton Lundell on that first line with Reinhart, but maybe they try Sam Bennett on there, and that's obviously a huge downgrade from Barkov. So I just don't love drafting Reinhart at his current price. If he fell to me in my draft, I would consider it, but on a lot of platforms, it's just too pricey. I've drafted over 200 fantasy hockey teams this season, and one player that I really haven't picked a lot is Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues. I actually just checked my best ball exposures, and I've only drafted 4% of Kyrou in my 200 plus drafts this season. So yeah, I am not a fan, and my reasoning behind this is that last season under Jim Montgomery, we saw his deployment go down the drain. In the last couple of months of the season, Kyrou only averaged around 60 minutes of ice time per game, and we saw in the playoffs that he barely got any time on the man advantage. In the playoffs, he was 8th in power play time per game on the Blues, behind players like Jake Neighbors and Jimmy Snuggerud and Zachary Bolduc. Things can change, but based on the sample size, this tells me that Jim Montgomery does not want to give Kyrou top line minutes, and that is obviously going to limit his production. We also know based on some of the stuff in camp that they're probably running a 1A, 1B power play with Kyrou on the 1B. Yes, I like his chemistry with Holloway on the second line, and I think Kyrou's a fantastic player, but without the deployment that you need to get elite level production, I'm just not a fan of Kyrou this year. Another player I've been avoiding in my drafts, haven't really drafted a lot of them this season, is Adin Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I will say that Hill was actually decent last year, and he is in a very good situation, being on one of the best teams in the NHL in Vegas, but I have some concerns. The first concern is that Vegas lost one of their premier defensive players, that guy being Alex Pietrangelo. They're going to be relying on guys like Shea Theodore way more than they normally do, who's not known for his defensive game, and this could actually affect Adin Hill's numbers more than we think. We also know that Vegas has never given Adin Hill a huge run in terms of volume. In a category league, it might not matter that much, but in some of these points leagues, volume is key, and there's a chance he only plays like 50 games. Now, I know some of you were thinking that, oh, Samsonov is gone, it's Akira Schmidt, and Akira Schmidt isn't very good. I understand this, but they are linking Carter Hart to Vegas. If that happens, then we could see down the stretch Carter Hart eating into his games, and that is obviously not going to help in these points leagues. Ultimately, those are my concerns, but what it comes down to is price. He is very expensive on a lot of platforms. On Yahoo, his ADP is 56.3. In a points league, there's going to be goalies going way later that are going to get better volume and face more shots and be more reliable. And in a category league, you have a bunch of goalies that are on really good teams as well that could have better numbers. I just think you're paying a premium on a goalie, a very unreliable position, and Adin Hill, who has been a very unreliable goalie. I have my concerns, so that's why I've been avoiding him. The last player that I've been avoiding in my drafts is Ivan Demidov of the Montreal Canadiens. Now listen, I am not a Montreal hater. I think they have one of the best young pool of players in the NHL. I think Demidov is going to put up 100 plus points in the future, but this year in his rookie season, I feel like he is too pricey. On some platforms, he is going very high. On drafters, it's like 90, which is ridiculous. On Yahoo, it's like 126, which is somewhat reasonable, but you have players going like 20 to 30 picks later, like Alex Tuch, Mika Zibanejad, Steven Stamkos, and Matt Barzal, that I think are much safer. So that's why I haven't been drafting him a lot in any of the drafts that I've done. And there's also a few reasons why I have my concerns. The first reason is his power play. Honestly, this whole power play situation is making me concerned about a lot of Montreal Canadiens players in fantasy. But in general, what we're seeing right now is Laine and Demidov on power play 2 and Bolduc on power play 1. Obviously, this power play can change, but I just have concerns. Like, Laine is one of the best power play goal scorers in the NHL, so it's hard to keep him off the first unit. And if he's on the first unit, then who does Demidov take off? Does he take off Slavkovsky and they move Nick Suzuki net front? You know, he's like a, what, 5'10", smaller guy. Doesn't make too much sense. So there is a chance they are running sort of this 1B power play with Dobson, Laine, and Demidov. And in general, that means Demidov is not going to get elite power play time. And also, even strength is another reason I'm not the biggest fan. They've been mixing up some lines, but there's a chance they have him with Kirby Dach or Alex Newhook centering that line, and then Patrick Laine or Zach Bolduc. These are not elite 5v5 line mates. Maybe he finds himself playing with Suzuki and Caulfield at some point, but I just don't love the deployment that he might be getting. It doesn't justify the price on a lot of platforms. He is a rookie. We always need to temper expectations with rookies. I feel like Michkov and Celebrini has upped these expectations, but yeah, I just think with all these facts considered, he is going too high in a lot of drafts, and I'm not willing to pay the price. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.